Welcome to the Walters Agency Podcast, where insurance meets peace of mind. Hosted by licensed insurance agent and owner Timothy Walters, we're here to help families, homeowners, and small business owners throughout East Tennessee protect what matters most. Our mission? Creating win-win-win solutions for insurance. Let's dive in.
Insurance endorsements might seem like just extra paperwork, but they can be the key to customizing your policy to fit your unique needs. Welcome back, everyone. Skip Monty, co-host / producer, back in the studio with Timothy Walters, licensed insurance agent and owner of the Walters Agency. Timothy, how's it going?
How y'all doing?
Doing just fine today. Hope you are as well.
Doing all right. Walking and talking.
Walking and talking. That's good. Beats the alternative. Absolutely. So, Timothy, insurance endorsements are a powerful tool for policyholders. Let's explore how they work and why they matter. So, what are endorsements on insurance and how are they valuable?
Well, endorsements, just simply put, are extra coverages that aren't included in the regular policy. Most standard insurance policies have certain coverages that are non-negotiable. If they're there, they can't be removed. But there's also other coverages that are optional. For instance, like two of the ones that on the homeowner side that I always try to recommend people to get is water backup through sewer and drains, which is not covered in 99% of regular homeowners insurance policies. And that's for damage for water that backs up through your septic or sewer systems into the home. Gray or black water typically coming out of toilets, drains, that kind of thing. And, it happens. It doesn't happen as often as, say, regular water claims, which is why it's an endorsement, not a standard coverage. But when it does happen, a lot of money to fix properly. So, if that coverage is not included on your policy and that particular kind of loss happens, that's all out of pocket. It's just not good. The other one that when it's available, and it's not always available, is an endorsement for hidden water damage. So that's for things like slow leaks in areas that maybe aren't easily seen behind appliances, refrigerators, dishwashers, pipes behind walls that have a slow leak that, causes damage over time. What a lot of people don't understand about homeowners insurance is typically that sort of damage is considered to be a maintenance issue. And it's not considered to be an insurable loss unless it's endorsed. So some companies do have endorsements that will say, hey, look, if you have a slow leak that wasn't identified because it was behind your dishwasher or, underneath your refrigerator or something along that line, and it causes rot, mold, that kind of thing. If you have that endorsement, there's typically coverage available for the cost of getting that fixed. If it's not endorsed, most of the time you're going to be out of pocket on that expense. So knowing what is and isn't covered on your policy is important. Talking to your agent about your policy, asking them, hey, are there any endorsements that you would recommend, for something that maybe isn't covered under the standard policy that we could cover with an endorsement? Asking that question to a solid, experienced agent is probably going to be beneficial for you because they can explain what they would recommend, why they would recommend, and tell you how much extra it's going to cost because there is an extra cost involved. And then you can make that decision from an informed standpoint. So,
Gotcha.
Endorsements.
So, can endorsements impact your premiums?
Yeah, absolutely. It's extra coverage. So, of course, it's going to cost some extra money. A lot of times it's not as much as people think, especially for the amount of coverage that can be provided. I'll just give you an example going back to the water backup. Last time I actually dealt with a claim, it's been several years now, actually, thankfully. Had a client had a rental property in Jefferson City, and there was a black water backup from the septic system that backed up into the bathroom. It's a small bathroom, like 10 by 10 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, the water did not spread to any other part of the house, but it did go into the subflooring and all that kind of stuff. So after, all the cost of getting the company to come out to do the water mitigation, get everything cleaned up, do the antimicrobial, which you want to do. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for some really nasty issues with those types of losses. And then making the repairs to the flooring and everything for that small that small backup in that small room in 2000. 21, I think it was almost $14,000.
Wow.
Okay. So fortunately, that particular policy, we had put the water endorsement on there. I don't think it covered the entire cost. I think the endorsement was maybe $10,000, but that was money that the insurance company paid that didn't have to come out of their pocket. Again, this has been many years ago. I can't remember all the specifics, but definitely good for them to have. These people, fortunately, were not financially bad off, so they were able to cover the part of the damage that was not covered by the insurance. But if they hadn't had that endorsement, all of it would have been out of pocket. So, it's good to have. Definitely good to have.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the endorsement only costs an extra like $100 a year, maybe, on their policy. So,
Oh, definitely worth it then,
yeah,
for sure.
definitely,
Well,
definitely worth asking about.
well, I had a cat, long story here. I'm going to make it really short, but I had a cat, house cat. I may have told you this in the past, but turned the water on in a bathroom he was locked in that my daughter had put him up in, and to turn the water on. It ran for about 3 or 4 hours with the sink plugged. Yeah. So same kind of deal. Thankfully, I must have had endorsements in my policy because the total cost was about $6,000. Out of pocket for me was probably half that. So I guess that means I had an endorsement.
That would be an interesting one. I would like to find out like how that was paid. It's like those farmers commercials when they talks about the crazy things that have been covered. Yeah, I like those because those are actual events that were covered by insurance, and I love it because people tell me all the time when I'm quoting them, "Oh, insurance is a scam," or "This is too expensive," and I'm like, "Look, I understand, but if you do need this, it's a lot better to pay $1,000 or $2,000 a year for your insurance, and then not have to pay out of pocket $20,000 because a pipe busted in your house and or a cat turned the water on."
Yeah.
I got to remember that. I don't think you told me that. I'm going to remember that story. Next time I talk to somebody, say, "Do you own cats?" Well,
Cat turned the water on, and you know what's
they're
funny is
devious little creatures.
the remediation company that came in. I won't name them, but when they came in to start working on it and pull the subflooring up and do all this stuff, had tile in there, but there was also some vinyl under the tile, so they had to pull all that up, pull all the vinyl up, dry it out, put the tile back down. Anyway, when they came in to evaluate the situation, they when they were leaving, they got me to sign the quote or whatever, and there was a picture of the cat on the document. And I said, "Why is there a picture of the cat?" He said, "We always have to, if we can take a picture of the cause of the event, we have to do that." So there's this nice little picture of my
There's
cat.
the cat
Yeah.
sitting on the sink, just acting like didn't just cause all kinds of trouble.
Oh, I'm telling you. Well, back on subjects. How do insurance companies determine eligibility for certain endorsements?
Oh, it's in the contract. And I always tell people eligibility is spelled out in the contract. It's usually pretty straightforward. If people ever have questions, I always advise them to actually contact the carrier directly because all the contracts are a little bit different. But just for things like in a homeowner's contract, they spell out in the standard policy this is the type of water damage that they'll cover, and then they specifically exclude other things depending on the type of contract it is. So for a standard HO3 or HO5 contract, usually the exclusions are very explicit because the way the state law is states that if something is not specifically covered or specifically excluded in a contract, then it's kind of incumbent on the insurance company to prove to the state that why they shouldn't cover it if they're trying to deny a claim. Um, that's why, like I say, if you actually look at your standard homeowners insurance contracts, they're pretty explicit about what is and isn't covered. And that's why, like I said, if they don't cover something like backup of water through your septic or sewer systems, that's specifically excluded in most policies. And then that's why you can actually add the endorsement to basically add that coverage in. So, nobody likes reading insurance contracts. I've been doing this for almost 15 years now. I don't particularly care to read through insurance contracts, but if you are curious about what is and isn't covered in your policy, it's usually spelled out. And as to how they determine that, they have actuarials, that they look at all the loss data for this particular type of policy in this particular area of market, and that's how they determine how they write their contracts. They're typically looking, 3 or 4 years ahead, trying to figure out, hey, what's likely to happen because they got to look out for potential losses and all that kind of thing. So Yeah, the contract, you can always refer back to the contract. And if it's not specifically included or specifically excluded, it's a question you can always ask your agent. They may be able to answer, or they may have to refer it out to the carrier to get a more detailed determination on that. So, again, always ask questions. The questions that are asked are the ones that never get answered. So
That's right. That's right. Well, it sounds like endorsements offer a ton of flexibility for policy holders, which is really good to know. So thanks for breaking that down for us. I have a much better understanding now. Hopefully our listeners do too. So we appreciate it.
yeah, that's talking about endorsements. That's the insurance guy. We love it.
There you go. There you go. All right, Timothy. Well, we will let you go, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate it.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Walters Agency Podcast. Ready to find the right coverage for your home, business, or family? Call or text 423-417-2070 for a free 20-minute consultation. Until next time, stay covered, stay protected, and keep winning with the Walters Agency.